Hey everyone, welcome to the A64 podcast. I'm Mike, this is Randall, we're your hosts. We have the A64 podcast to get people excited about what's happening in the upstate. We have people on that are doing exceptional work in the upstate, and hopefully you guys are excited to do the same in your communities, whether it's here or whether it's anywhere you're at in the world. So today we're super excited because we have two incredible ladies with us. We have Abby and Lindsey. They both are representing Fostering Faithfully tonight, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
All right. Thanks for having us. Thanks so much for caring about vulnerable children in our community and getting people connected to help. My name is Abby Crooks. I have 14 years ago, my husband and I signed up to adopt one child, and then we ended up becoming foster parents. We've had about 45 children in our home over the past 12 to 14 years, and then we adopted a second daughter through foster care along the way. And then shortly after kind of starting our fostering journey, we realized there was a need for something like Fostering Faithfully. So we stepped out in faith, took that leap of faith to start Fostering Faithfully. But we're both teachers here in Oconee County. That's our real job that pays the bills.
Yeah.
And then we have a cattle farm.
Oh, wow. Okay. Very cool. Lindsey?
I'm Lindsey Alexander, and I was a foster parent in Oconee County for 2 years. Back in 2015, I was actually a single foster parent. I wasn't married at the time, and the very first placement that I took was a sibling set of 3 children.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I had them for 18 months, and we had a 4th kid and sometimes a 5th or 6th come in and out occasionally.
Wow.
So I had about 12 kids in my home, and then, helping out in the fostering community, other kids coming in for respite and things. I own a daycare in Walhalla. It's Upstate Children's Center. So it's also played a really big part in my ministry for Fostering Faithfully. I am the Oconee Resource Center Director and Equipment Manager for Fostering Faithfully.
And she takes every foster child that we send her way, which is amazing to be able to use her for-profit business to serve these kids well. And just it's a big part of how we wrap around foster parents.
It is. It's been how I got into daycare was a God thing, but it's been even more of a God thing for us to be able to use it for Fostering Faithfully also.
Yeah. Awesome. I guess let's just jump right into it. What is Fostering Faithfully?
So our main goal is to support foster parents because what they do is unlike what most people do. Mm-hmm. So that is our main goal, is supporting foster families and then giving our community a way to bridge the gap between how they can help foster families without actually taking a child into their home. So we have several different things and different ways that we help foster families. One of our biggest things is that we have a support group for foster parents because parenting these children is different than parenting your own children. Yeah. And just talking to one of your friends out at dinner one night is very different than what it used to be. So we want to give these foster parents a safe place to talk to people that are walking the same thing that they are.
Yeah, I facilitate the support group. And speaking of, faith community, it's really beautiful because people show up at foster parent support group because fostering is just too hard to do alone. Yeah. And they're from all walks of faith and even no faith sometimes, and even just different family structures and Church of God and Baptist people and Pentecostals. And everybody, we're all together there at support group because we need each other.
And because we're all doing the same thing.
Right. Just and it's been really beautiful, the support group piece. And that's how we started Fostering Faithfully, kind of a little bit of seed there. We started a support group very early on before we were a nonprofit. I started that at my church, and our church has been welcoming to whoever is a foster parent can come. Yeah. And so that was one of the first things we did.
Yeah. One of our big things that we offer is we have a resource center in Oconee County and Pickens County, and those things it's basically set up for if the new child comes into your home, you can literally walk into this resource center and walk out with everything that you need for that child for free without having to go to Walmart. And that kind of happened because I picked up my first foster child on the way back from a trip to New York and had to go by Walmart, and I dropped $1,000 and thought, wow, this is stupid because I work in a building full of people that have children that get rid of all of this stuff every day. Yeah. So the next week I sent a letter out to all of the families in my daycare and said, I have an empty storage building on the back of the property, and I'm going to start collecting donations for foster children.
Yeah.
And it's just grown and grown and grown. So we moved that foster closet several times, and now we have one in Oconee and Pickens County.
Wow.
And a space at the daycare where we house beds and mattresses and car seats and all of the big things. Yeah. So that's a huge thing for foster parents, because, you know, if somebody comes and has a baby, not everybody has a infant car seat sitting around just because.
And
so they would have to go buy one.
Yeah, they think, oh, I'm going to take one child, but then we have multiple, like, I took 2 kids. Oh, no, I took 3 kids. Oh, I thought I was going to take a 12-year-old, but they brought me a 4-year-old. So there's just all this. You really can't be prepared.
No, you can't have that. You can't have all of those resources just sitting in your house on the what if.
Yeah.
So we do it for them. Yeah. And that way, you know, they can just come in and get the things that they need, especially to make it through that night, because a lot of foster kids come with nothing, or the things that they come with don't fit them, or they've been exposed to drugs and you don't bring those things into your home. Yeah. And so, I mean, that baby that I picked up that evening had on the outfit that she had 3 diapers and a bottle. And I had a crib and a car seat, but I didn't have all the other stuff that I needed. So after a trip to Walmart that evening, I was like, oh man, like this is a need. Like, we got to fix this. Wow. And so we were able to. So our resource centers are a huge thing for our foster families and the kids that come in. And kind of along with that, if most of kids that are in the system and they end up staying in the system for a long time and they move around, a lot of times we see them moving their items in trash bags. Wow. So one of the first things that we started doing was we buy them a duffel bag and have it embroidered with their name.
Oh, wow.
So that they have something that they can call theirs, has their name on it, and they can move their things with dignity.
That's cool.
So they, no matter where they are, they're getting that duffel bag with their name on it. Mm-hmm. For our foster families, we also we have a meals team. And so when a new child comes into a home, the foster families let us know, and we have a meals coordinator, and she gets a meal set up for them. If we don't have a meals team member that can make a homemade meal and take it to them, we make sure that they get a gift card, just because bringing a new child into your home is chaotic that first week. Lots of appointments, lots of things that you have to take care of. If you have biological children or other children in your home, that's a new shift for them to get used to, and just having somebody show up at your house with a meal one night that week is just...
And usually you don't sleep that first week or so, maybe 4 weeks, maybe 8 weeks. I mean, there's just not a lot of sleeping going on. Some of these kids are grieving for their family. Some have some behavioral needs that may keep you up. And sometimes just adding a person to your family creates a lot of anxiety just because of the unknowns of it. So we love to bring in meals. I mean, if they're taking a lot of kids, we'll do meals for a month or 2 to try to just kind of help.
Yeah.
So do you also have training if there's a family that knows they want to foster? Do you help out like prior to the kids coming as well, or is that?
The state requires a certain amount of training that you have to have before you can become a foster parent, but we help with the licensing needs. So you also have to do a home study, and they come in and check out your home and all that. So we come in on the end of if they need a crib to pass a home study, they need a bed, those kind of things that they need in their home. Fire alarms, fire extinguishers. They're very picky about their windows. So those kind of things.
Just things that help them meet the codes. Like, we want to remove obstacles. Yeah. So if it's a physical obstacle that's keeping you from licensing, then we want to help fix it, whatever it is. So we've just done a few various things to help people. But yeah, we do some of that.
So like, what would have been, prior to starting the ministry, what would have been your first exposure to the fostering world? Like, how did you, I guess for both of you, how did you get started and say like, oh, I want to start fostering? Like, what was your first exposure to that world?
So when I was a college student, I wrote a book recently, and I sat in it. God really revealed my purpose to me at 17. I landed at the University of Missouri, knew very few people, got involved in a church there, and I saw families fostering and then adopting kids that they had known in foster care. The culture there was about fostering and adoption, and I was like, I saw it, and I helped them take care of these babies, and I watched them First of all, I'd never seen a sick, malnourished, or abused baby. I'd only seen the sweet, happy little cherub kind, and it was very upsetting to see. But I could watch these kids be cared for by foster parents, and one in particular that I came alongside, and she was like my mother when I lived there in college, and I watched what she did, and I thought, whoa, this is for me. This is what God wants for me in life. And so for me, it was early on as a college student working with these families in my church.
And mine was, so old time connection, Abby was my babysitter.
Oh, wow.
That's right.
So Abby has been part of my family for almost as long as I can remember.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
it kind of lined up for when they started fostering their first daughter was around the same time that I bought the daycare. So I also had 1 or 2 foster families there, so I started getting those exposures in my personal life and my professional life. So I watched, I was part of, Abby's family's life going through that first process, and then I was just having a conversation with this foster parent in my office one day, and placement called her and said, we have this baby that's being discharged from the hospital. She's 3 days old. Can you come get her? And she was immediately like, yeah. And she hung up, and then she looked at me and she said, I can't take 6 weeks off of work. What am I going to do? And I said, you know what? It's fine. I'll put a crib in my office. I'll keep the baby in my office for 6 weeks until she can be big enough to go to my baby room. And it's fine. We'll do that. And so after about 2 weeks of doing my job with a newborn in the office, I was like, I'm a goner. Like, sign the papers. Let's go. I can do this. I have the resources to do this.
Wow.
So that was kind of how my life has come through her life.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. It's awesome because you guys, it seems like you guys have thought about so many of the, like the stumbling blocks that would be for someone that would even consider it. Like even,
It was probably because we stumbled on them.
yeah, exactly. Because it's like you saw it and you lived it firsthand before you started doing all this stuff. It's not like you just were like, oh, you didn't wake up and be like, oh, I want to help foster parents. Like you actually were foster parents, and then you saw like there's a great need for this. There's a great need for resources. You said the story about like when you first picked up a kid, like you saw firsthand, and I think that like seeing from your experiences and then firsthand like assembling something to help other people not experience that, that's really cool. And it helps then anyone who's like even debating like, is this even something I can do? You guys can come alongside them and be like yes, yeah, you can do it because we're here to help you, and we're here to help you not go through the things that we did.
Exactly. And then, it's not just removing obstacles for foster families. Since we started this, DSS comes to us regularly.
Wow.
We allow social workers to come and ask us for things that their families need, that they're serving.
Yeah.
Even if an Oconee County child can't stay in Oconee County, as in Myrtle Beach or Charleston or Greenville, these caseworkers can still come and get things they need for kids at our centers, ask us for help. We've done all kinds of things for kids that maybe weren't in families we're serving, like quinceañera parties and things that were important to the caseworkers to do for these kids. And we just allow social workers to come to us and say, hey, we have this need. And we're like, yes, we can do that.
Yeah.
And, because of our community's generosity, we consistently say yes. They came to us a couple of weeks ago. We need a washer and dryer. We took in all these kids. They all had, a sickness. All of them needed their stuff washed. And so, we put a washer and dryer at DSS for them just recently. They can just come to us and say, we need this. A couple of years ago, we were able to redo all the visiting rooms and add a playground at DSS so these kids can visit their families outside. As our community's generosity has just gotten bigger and bigger over time, we've just been able to do more and more. It's just been amazing because when we started Fostering Faithfully, we started none of these dreams.
No, we were using an old rundown storage building on daycare property and piecing stuff together and begging for stuff.
And we had $0. We weren't really a nonprofit, but we would call people and say, hey, could you buy a crib, or we need 2 car seats? And they're like, who are you? Well, we are people
We're just
who want
trying.
to help foster parents.
Yeah.
So then it became really well, we'll talk about it when we get into our history, but it became really obvious we were going to need to get organized, that we were going to need to get a 501c3.
We weren't going backwards. We were very quickly going forwards and saw us going very bigger than where we were. So we knew that there was going to be a need for some organization to what we were doing.
It couldn't just be me and Lindsey and her mom, who's still on our original board. You know, it had to be more people. And then one thing we didn't talk about as far as what do we do yet is
we talked a lot about what we do for families, but we also do a lot of things for the kids.
Okay.
And so the birthday sponsorships are huge for us because a lot of these kids have never celebrated their birthday. They've never had a cake that's theirs. They've never had the bouncy house and the party that was theirs. So we give a birthday sponsorship for these foster parents to be able to give them the party that they've never had. Which is, I've experienced that, giving kids a party that they've never had before, and that's a big big thing.
Letting these teens have an experience, go to Big Air with their friends, or do whatever the teens want to do with their friends. It's been awesome, and that was one of our original initiatives. We've been able to grow them. Thankfully, we do recreational scholarships now, mostly thanks to Davo and the All In Foundation. They fund a lot of ours. We send kids to camp, art lessons, music lessons, theater, sports, equipment, lacrosse, whatever these kids need to have normal childhood experiences.
Because they've also never been able to have those experiences, and that's an extra expense for foster families. That's something that comes out of their pocket. Nobody else is going to help them with that. So we want to make sure that we're giving these children the opportunity to be children, because what they've come from is not childlike. They've experienced things that we never will. And so we want to give that back to them to be able to enjoy their childhood.
That's so good. Like I've even seen that like firsthand at the youth center. What it does for a kid when you give them the chance to be a kid. And so like that's awesome what you guys do, like the birthday parties, the fun stuff, because I think a lot of times we're like, as a culture, we try to fix things, and we're like, how do we get these kids on the right track, and like how do we get them pointed in the right direction, and like how do we speed them up and like get them to be successful like right away. But it's you almost have to go backwards first and like let them be a kid, and then let them enjoy being a kid, and then like help them grow up. Right. And so, and like I've seen the importance of that even with our teens. Like when they show up, some of them like were basically a parent for all their life. And
Absolutely.
They parent their younger kids, they parent their younger siblings or cousins, all that stuff. And then they show up at a youth center and they're like,
oh, you're going to fix my dinner tonight?
Exactly.
Like, I don't have to fix dinner tonight?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like when you can do the small things, like even take kids fishing and just have fun with them. Like it's not something they get to do because they have so much responsibility on them. Right. And so that's so cool. The birthday parties and the celebration stuff is something that's really cool.
And for us, because we serve children who've been abused and neglected, they have often not been valued and cherished. And that was one thing I always felt really strongly about. What can we do every time so that they feel valued and cherished? Because if you're getting abused and neglected, you're getting a message that you're not important, that nobody cares about you. And so we want to start giving the message, no, this is your duffel bag with your precious name on it. This is your birthday celebration. We give every child that enters foster care brand new shoes. You're walking proudly in shoes you picked out, not some donated shoes from a bin. No, shoes you pick out and we reimburse foster families for those. I mean, up to a reasonable amount. But those things have been really important to me, that we go back to telling these children, no, you're precious, you're valuable, God loves you, we love you. And so a lot of our initiatives are around that idea.
Yeah, I think I know it was true for me at one point. You can, if you're living in a community that's healthy and thriving, this world is something that you may never come into contact with. We were doing an interview a couple months ago, probably with Tim Murakami. He works in the Seneca area and he made a comment about how most people that kind of hit that rock bottom are there because they don't have a community, and therefore the people on the margins are there because they don't have anybody to draw them in. And I think that happens faster than we realize if we're in a church that's put together and, we're in a functional environment. We miss all those needs around us. And then, it's such an unknown that there's few people that are willing to step into that. And, but I'm curious, just like as you've started, were people pretty fast to rally around? I mean, it sounds like now you have a lot more than what you were aiming for when you started, but how has that been with community response and the word getting out?
It's been amazing. I think all of our board, we drop our jaws regularly that we're able to do this, that we're able to provide this. But I think for some reason the church was disconnected from kids in foster care. And not just the church, the general community. If you weren't a police officer or a teacher, or you didn't work for DSS, you don't know where foster kids are. You don't know how you can help. And I think they probably always wanted to help, but they didn't have tangible ways to do that.
Nobody gave them a way to do that.
And so once we created that culture of, well, you can help us with childcare once a month. When we do support group, we used to also do foster parent association trainings, but they've moved all those online. But that was a big part of our original start. They've moved a lot of the foster parent training online. But so you can do childcare for us. We provide date nights for foster parents where they can go and get a break. Lots of churches like yours are getting ready to host a date night where our foster parents can drop off 6 to 8 kids. Nobody's just signing up to babysit when you have 6 or 8 kids, especially not when the state is involved and there's that extra fear, liability. And so it was always our vision to provide all these opportunities for ways people can connect. And we have seen our volunteers move from, okay, I'll help you with childcare. I'll deliver a meal because that's what I can do. But then we've also seen them take steps. Okay, now I want to do respite care. Now I know a bunch of these kids and I feel safe. I want to help with respite care. And then we've seen them move into adopting some of these children that need adoptive homes. And for me, that is a huge win to go, okay, we gave you a baby step. You felt safe. You took next steps to walk into these, because, these broken families are, these children's lives. And man, a child found a family because of it. I'm addicted to that.
I guess I kind of want to dig into a little bit. You said you like the nitty gritty almost of starting off. How did you get? Because I'm a sucker for the details of the idea to where you're at now, and how do you bring ideas together, and how do you gather people together and then actually make it into something official? And so was that something that was easy for you guys, or was that something that you had to pull in a lot of people to help with you? Or
it was easier. It was easy and it was hard,
Well, I think we need to go back to, so we
where
needed
we were.
foster parents desperately. So we had a team, including DSS, including Guardian Ad Litems, to do this big event in Seneca called Fostering Hope. And after we did that, our number of foster parents quadrupled in our county. And we were all kind of okay, there's 4 of us. Now we have all these foster parents to support, all these people who need respite, all these people who have questions, and we couldn't do it all ourselves. And so it became real obvious, and we started connecting some key churches to our mission, who still to this day, many years later, support us financially, emotionally, physically. Our resource centers are housed for free at churches. That's some of our infrastructure. We have no bills. Every dollar we get goes back to the kids and the families. And so God just kept flinging open doors, and churches started connecting because I think they'd always wanted to. They just needed a way. And so I think that was the biggest thing. It's as God opened doors and as people asked us for things, we're can we do this? Can we find somebody to help us do this? And we have been able to.
And we kind of started off with the originally the way foster parents kind of got together was we had a foster parent association that we had to do monthly trainings and stuff to keep our license and all that. And we just kind of kept dwindling and dwindling and dwindling. And then we were kind of doing the resource center, but we were just kind of doing it. And then we did Fostering Hope, and it was the door just busted wide open that we had told all these people, oh, we can help you.
Become a foster parent.
Become a foster parent. You can come to trainings with us, and we'll support you, and we'll give you cribs and clothes. And then they started calling,
and we needed to get organized.
Yeah,
and so we did. And
because we all have full-time jobs. We all have jobs.
Yeah.
So it was kind of we got to get this together so that we do this the right way.
So I play tennis. So we had a big tennis tournament out at Spindletree Racket Club, which gave us our initial seed money to start our initiative. So we started with the birthdays. We started with, some rec scholarships, but nothing
Very
on the
little.
scale of what we
Very
have
little.
now.
Yeah.
Meals to families. We created a meals team. And I should go back. You're talking about how does this all work? So we created Fostering Faithfully officially in 2017. And in October of that year, my child almost died. I was in the hospital. It was super tragic for us. And I seriously was like, God, did I do the wrong thing creating a nonprofit? What have I done? Like, I was having so much struggle with, will my life ever be the same? Is my child going to make it? Will my life ever be the same? And, right at that time, we had a missionary come into our town that found our website. And she called, she's a homeschooling mom. She's back from the mission field. She called them because I wasn't available then. And she's like, what can I do? How can I help? And literally, y'all, she just picked up all the stuff I was doing. And we're like, how can you help? Here you go. Our director's going to be at the hospital long term. We don't know where this is going. These are all
we
the
just
things
started this and we just got organized, and just help us. Just help us.
These are all the things you can do. And she was so capable. And I mean, literally, she's still with us today. She's still running those things that she picked up from me so that I could run and do other things when my daughter was healed, praise God. And, when my life normalized, I was able to pick up and grow us in different ways because she'd picked up that. So it's literally been just synergy over time, and God sending key people, key churches, key finance pieces, but the church has been incredibly supportive. We founded this with just the belief that everyone can do something. And so our number one goal has always been, we need foster families. We need people in the trenches to love these kids. But if you can't do that, we'll find here's all these other buffet of options, right?
That's awesome.
So,
that's awesome. I love that last bit. Like, even if fostering isn't like for you, there's so many other ways to get
We're
involved.
very aware that not everybody can bring children from broken homes into their home. We know that that's not a thing for everybody, but you can do something.
Yeah.
Everybody can do something.
That's what a lot of people need, is to hear that. Like, even if it's not just fostering, like, you can be involved in fostering without actually fostering. And I think the way you guys open that up for other people to get involved is really cool.
And once they meet the kids, a lot of people have been like, oh, I could love this child. I could adopt this child. So just like meeting that little face or that adult or that middle school face or whoever the child is, I think that just takes away so much fear.
Yeah.
I mean, you know them personally, you know them by name. They're just like your children. They need love just like your child at home. So I think we've demystified that some in our community, and I'm really glad.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess we'll just move along. Why is fostering faithfully important to families in the upstate? I guess we talked, you brushed on a few reasons, and it seems like it's pretty obvious that it is important, but what to you guys is like the most important thing, like, fostering faithfully can provide for people in the upstate?
Well, statistically, 50% of foster parents quit within a year of their first placement.
Wow.
50%. And we've just really seen that number change in our community. We've seen people take 10, 12, 15, 20 placements, be in this longer. Of course, many of our foster families retire when they adopt, which is totally fine. And so we constantly need to be recruiting new foster parents and keep this in the forefront of people's minds. And I think that's an important thing, besides just connecting people to foster children in ways they can make the system better for kids, because you hear a lot in the world about how broken the system is with DSS. When I go out to speak, there's somebody coming to tell me a horror story or why they won't be involved or why they hate DSS. But at the end of the day, like, that's the only system we have.
Yeah.
So we have to do what we can to make it the best we can for these kids.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think fostering faithfully plays a role in that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for me, I love this quote. Frederick Buechner said, "A good way to find your purpose, to know what the mission of God is calling you to, is to discern the work that you most need to do and that the world most needs to have done." And let me tell you, nobody was working in foster care. Yeah. Nobody. I mean, it's just a lot of people are not signing up to do it, you know.
That's the quote that you remember like 4 episodes ago? It was, we can go back and look and find out when it actually was, but I was like, I know it was this quote from high school, and I could not think of the quote, but it was along those lines, like what you want to do, lining up with what God's purpose for you, and like what you see that the world needs. And it's that quote. So there we go. That was cool to hear again. So,
awesome.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Yeah. And then what are some valuable things you've learned? Like even that you could pass on to other people? Cause a lot of what, we want to spread like the word about what you guys do, but we also want to encourage other people to like act on things that they see. And so like, what are things that you learned along the way as starting a nonprofit, like getting people excited about a cause and also like supporting people in a cause? Like, what are things that you've learned that you would want to tell someone who might want to start something of their own?
I mean, the biggest thing is that you don't have to be some big, bad somebody to do something. You know, we are regular people with regular jobs, and we're doing it.
You just fit it in your life.
You just do it. It just fits. I mean, a lot of people think, oh, well, I don't have time for that. Oh, I don't have the money for that. Oh, somebody else will do that. But you can.
Yeah.
You can make the time.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you can do it.
Yeah.
So do it.
Yeah.
And I think I would say, as the director, you better choose a board and a team of people wisely. And we already had an energetic team. I mean, God has grown it, but we already had passionate people. We just needed to form it more formally for the government, for our EIN number. But really, we already had a team of people who were willing to get dirty in the work. They weren't just showing up to give money. They weren't just showing up to board meetings. They were showing up to change diapers, to do respite care, to show up at the center at 8 o'clock at night, to, do whatever it took to serve these families. And I think that's one of the things, man, to have a group of people who are really invested, in what you're doing, because there is no fostering faithfully without a whole lot of people, lots of people in the boat rowing. You cannot do this on your own. You just can't. And then the other thing I've learned is that God will provide. You just step out in faith and do the small things, because we were only doing like 3 or 4 really small things when we started, and now we're like 12 things, I don't know, 15, 20 things. We're just saying yes to whatever comes our way that people need. But I think that's huge, that God's just going to provide the people and the money as you need it.
Yeah.
And as you have capacity.
And that's something we see pretty much with everybody we interview. It's like starting is half the work. And I think a lot of people just need to hear that, start and God's going to follow through. That trust piece ends up being one of the biggest steps. And after somebody starts, suddenly it gets out of hand and it's way bigger than they ever thought it could be. And it's just like God is waiting to partner with anybody who's ready to step into that. And it just takes off. I was curious earlier when you were talking about the need for foster families. How short-staffed is the upstate with foster families? Like, if you, do we have, I don't have any of the numbers really for like how many kids are out there.
I didn't bring exact numbers today. You can look those up on the foster care dashboard, but I can tell you we need thousands of foster parents in this state. We literally have no families for children over 12. And when I say no, I mean no. I had a church call me. There are none. Our families that take older kids are full. They stay full. And we have families taking kids for overnights. And there's kids traveling around our state for years on end, overnight, just moving to this place overnight, moving to this place overnight. I mean, how can you heal when that's your life? And we really don't have many homes for kids over 6.
So the process there, like, they just pretty much bounce to wherever they can.
That is correct.
We have kids that are from Oconee County that were removed from their homes in Oconee County and Myrtle Beach.
Charleston,
Columbia.
And if they're a teenager or an older child, they're going to some of the big institutions, which DSS is desperately trying to avoid. And DSS has done all kinds of things to try to recruit foster parents over the years. But lately, one of their initiatives has been to really improve on how many times they can get people to do kinship care. So one thing I don't want to leave here without mentioning is that we do support kinship caregivers, which are people who either might have met the child once, if I'm being really honest, or know the child really well as a family member.
We've got a lot of teachers, a lot of counselors stepping in to take kids.
Yes. Anybody who knows the child can become a foster care parent for that child. It's called kinship care. And so DSS is even giving them a stipend like a foster parent, and they don't have to have the training hours, and they don't have to do some of the things a regular licensed foster parent does, but they get ABC vouchers for daycare. They get a foster parent stipend now. So kinship care is growing in our state, and that's been their answer too. We really can't find foster parents, so what can we do to try to mobilize people who might know this child? And the outcomes are good for kids. If they can stay with people that know them, that's good for kids. But we still have a huge need for foster parents, especially foster parents who can keep siblings together. I mean, we all have sibling groups from 2 to 10 kids. So even if we can place them 2, 2 and 2, 3 and 3, 4 and 4, I mean, like, DSS every day is trying to patch together where to put kids.
So that's obviously one of the harder things about the position you're in. But what would you say is the most rewarding part about your job?
No, I think we touched on it a little bit. For me, it's just seeing kids be happy and healthy. A lot of our foster parents take kids who have a lot of medical needs that have been neglected over time, and just seeing those kids go from fearful, overwhelmed, unhealthy to happy, laughing, running around at our events, increasing their speech, increasing their ability to have eye contact, talk to adults, feel safe and loved, seeing they were maybe, thrashing around and punching people at an event to enjoying other people and our volunteers. And I think that's super rewarding to see children grow and heal as a foster parent and in what we do, but also just helping foster parents be able to find another gear to say, I was ready to quit yesterday, but today I'm going to keep on with this placement. I'm going to say yes again because I know Fostering Faithfully is going to have my back. So I think that's the most rewarding part for me.
Mine would be the same, knowing that these kids are coming from brokenness and we're giving them the chance to be a kid and to hopefully heal some of those things that they've experienced in their life and know that they don't have to repeat that cycle that they were living in, and hopefully giving them the tools to break that cycle so that they, we can give them the tools to grow up and be better, even if they don't stay with us forever or they move somewhere, to plant that seed that they're enough and that God loves them and we love them and we will support them for as long as we can. And hopefully they'll, keep that with them as they go, wherever they go.
Yeah. One thing that I think it would be wrong if we didn't do it while you guys are on here is let you guys have an opportunity to just give your pitch to someone who might potentially want to be a foster parent. I'm thinking through, as you guys are talking, what if someone's in that situation where they might want to be a foster parent, but they might be intimidated by the fact, or they might be I don't know what to do with kids that aren't raised in a good family. I don't know what, I'm not capable of doing that. What do you tell to that person?
They're still just children. They really are. A lot of the fears I had before I became a foster parent have not come true. And I wrote a whole book about it, I don't know if y'all want me selling my book or not, but
No,
I mean, I've
please
written
sell
an
your
entire
book.
book,
Plug your
simply
book.
available, simply available.
Okay.
And so I've written an entire book to try to equip people, to try to disarm a lot of their fears. And maybe I will scare some people to death because I'm a very bottom line person. So it's all in there, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It is all there for
Link
them.
in the description, by the way. We'll put
Yeah.
the link in the description. There we go.
Thank you. So anyway, so I wrote it to try to help those people just be aware of what might be coming their way, but also like how we found our way through it over the past 12 years. And it's not just my stories, it's the shared experiences of hundreds of foster families that I've served. And so in some ways my book might be overwhelming, but in the same time, like, hey, at least you know what you're getting into kind of a thing. But I would just tell people a lot of these kids are just normal children who deserve a stable, safe place to sleep at night, deserve somebody to take them to school. They deserve somebody to say, you're worth it. Even if you got $1 million appointments, you're going to have dental surgery. You know, you need all these, whatever I have to go to, therapy, OT, PT, you know, have baby net in my home, have guardian ad litems in my home, you know, have DSS in my home. And a lot of our families work with their biological families, which I know we don't have time to get into tonight. You don't have to as a foster parent, but it is a rewarding part of this to work with their biological families, and a lot of our foster families do. So
my first set of kids that lived with me for 18 months, when they left my home, they were 2, 4, and 5, and I had done shared parenting with their biological mother, which means I formed a relationship with her. And they still stay with me occasionally. I still see them. They're now 9, 11, and 12, and they're still part of my life.
That's incredible.
My children, my biological children, call them their sisters and brothers, and their pictures hang in my house like they were mine because they are mine.
Yeah, absolutely. Incredible. So we didn't talk about that in the rewarding piece.
Yeah.
I mean, I still have a relationship with many kids that have left my home.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, we're just in your life for a season. Some of these kids stay with us forever in various forms, but at least in our hearts forever. And I think that's a really rewarding part of being a foster parent. There is no other investment that has this kind of eternal significance than investing in people's lives and telling a child you're valuable. Like,
just because they're a foster child doesn't mean damaged. And I think a lot of people think that.
That's really good.
And they're not damaged. They're just broken, but that can be healed.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's really good.
And while love might not fix it all, because I talk about that in my book, love might not fix it all. But at the same time, we got to give it 100,000% for these kids because they deserve it. And God will equip us for the hard parts. And he'll give us grace for every single day that we get up and just say, I'm going to try again. I'm going to.
And I think a lot of people think that it's more hard than not, but that's not generally
it's a ton
the
of fun.
case.
There's
like
fun things about teaching kids how to ride a bike for the first time, to teach them how to read, to
take them to the beach for the first time. You know, I think a lot of people just get so bogged down in, well, it's going to be hard. Okay, well, it might be hard 2 days out of 5 in a week, but the other 5 are just like having kids. You know, they're just it's just like living life, just with a couple more kids than what you normally have. So it's not, you know, I think people get really bogged down in that sometimes.
I think there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear surrounding fostering. And so I think just to say to people, you know, it's called a leap of faith for a reason. And I think a huge fear people have is, what is this going to mean for my children? And I can just tell you, I've talked to foster parents for 12 years, and before I was even a foster parent, all those people in Missouri, like, you guys, the impact on your children can actually be really positive. When I interviewed my boys for my book, they were just like, Mom, it's just made me thankful. Mom, it's just made me grateful. It just hasn't been a big deal to share my room. And I want to go, have you forgotten all the boys we put in your bunk beds? But he just said, Mom, it just wasn't a big deal. And I thought that was so coming out of a teen's mouth. I was like, well, that's really interesting, because a lot of people think it is a very big deal to move another child into their child's room. Because they can share rooms. There's all these myths, too. I can't be a foster parent because they can't share a room with my biological child. Yes, they can. We all do that. You know, I've reconfigured my house, 50 times to just move people around in different spaces. And so a lot of our families do that. So you can probably make it work if you have willingness and you have I don't know how people do this without faith. I really don't. But people do it. But you definitely need your faith and your sense of humor intact. I think that's important in this because things are going to go awry.
Yeah.
It's made me much more flexible than I thought I could ever be. And I am not a flexible person. But.
Well, and even, people fear for their biological kids. And then I love it when people look at me and they're like, oh, I'm not married. I couldn't do it. And I'm like, oh, you want to bet? Oh, let's talk about that. Let's
we
talk
have
about that.
older foster parents.
Yeah.
And single moms foster. We have 29-year-old single moms fostering teenagers and doing it beautifully. They have no parenting experience, but they're just doing it beautifully. And so there's just all kind of people fostering.
And it's not, I did that as a single parent, but I had a lot of support in that. My parents were super supportive. They didn't have any biological grandkids, but man, they jumped right into being Nana and Pop. Like my foster children gave them their grandparent names. Yeah. So they were super supportive of me. Abby kept my kids sometimes. Other foster parents kept my kids. Half of my staff were fawning all over my foster children. I'll babysit for you whenever, So it's not you're never going to be alone.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Not in our community.
Not here.
Yeah. That's been a beautiful part of our ecosystem is that when things do go south, we can sometimes, a lot of times figure out how to fix it, how to help families, So that's been real pretty.
We've shared kids before,
Right.
We've moved kids between our houses,
I might take a sibling and you might take a sibling. So now we're basically family, right? I mean, that's how it's been with some of our foster families.
Yeah.
And
they've kept those bonds,
Yeah. If we can't house them together, at least you and I can do life together as much as possible,
Yeah, I think just over and over, it just all the unknowns, all the uncertainties, like the fears, all that is just kind of eliminated by the fact that like these kids deserve it and they deserve the attention, and like we need to be the ones to step out and give that to them, because ultimately that's the call of the church, is to look out for the orphans and the widows, and even though these kids might not be orphans per se, but like in some sense they are, like they need a family. And so I think like if that's the call of the church, then we should be the ones to carry that out. So, I think what you guys are doing is incredible, and like supporting that, helping alleviate some of the fears, the unknowns and all that, and like coming alongside, that's so important. And I think if more people knew, and hopefully more people will hear from this, we don't have a massive gathering yet, but we'll put the word out. But I hope that more people will understand, like after hearing this, that like it is something that's feasible, and it's something that's exciting, and it's not something to be like scared about.
And we're never going to make fostering easy. I don't want anybody to hear me say that.
Yeah.
We're never going to make foster parenting easy, but it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, sometimes we're so concerned with our own safety and our own comfort. Like, since when is the church supposed to be
comfortable?
When are we supposed to be the people that are hiding behind our comfortable lives? I think that's very anti the gospel. And again, like trusting that God is going to be faithful when you step out. I just really like that idea.
Yeah, I guess we're almost out of time, but we like to end all the episodes the same way. We ask the same question to everybody, and it's really fun because everybody has their own take on the question, just even coming from the what they're involved in, what their background is, all that. Because, I mean, we all see things differently. But what's one thing the world needs more of, and why?
Foster parents.
There you go. Awesome. I love it.
Good answer.
I love it. I was hoping deep down inside that you would answer, one of you would answer that, because it's just like, it's obviously what has come up. But
well, I thought about this, and my daughter I adopted has a lot of fear, and we deal with a lot of fear. And so when I looked at this and I thought about foster parenting and the book I just wrote and all the foster parents I work with, and, I just look at it and like, what does the world need more of? We need more people who are brave. And it was scary to start a nonprofit. It is. I wouldn't have done it without all these ladies. And of course, faith in Jesus, that he wouldn't leave me, when I said I was going to work with all of this, that he would be there with me. And my husband, of course, but I just still, it takes a certain amount of bravery. And I think that, I'll just read you this quote from Annie Downs, but courage is doing things even when you're scared. Being brave isn't something that happens when you're not scared anymore. Brave people don't stop hearing the whispers of fear. They hear the whispers, but they take action anyway. Being brave is hearing that voice of fear in your head and saying, okay, but the truth is, God made me on purpose and for a purpose. And I think once you find that, you can be brave because you see that it's helping people and making a difference and changing a culture. And it's been worth it.
Yeah. That's so good. Yeah. Well, do you have any closing comments? Both of those were fantastic. I love the simplicity of foster parents because it's what the world needs more of. And then bravery, I love that. And the quote was spot on. Not thinking that bravery is not having fear, but it's like when you do have the fear, then what are you going to do about it? Are you going to actually be faithful and step out even though you are a little bit afraid, or are you going to let the fear take over? And I think that goes hand in hand with foster parents. It's like, if we are afraid, are we still stepping out and doing what we're called to do?
And these kids are afraid. I mean, they're afraid. Just think about being taken to somebody's house in the middle of the night, how fearful that would be.
Yeah.
So, lay down right here. You're safe. No, they don't know that. They're afraid. And so I've thought a lot about how brave they are as I've taken them to forensic interviews and to visits with family, maybe that they don't even remember because they've been in jail, or all kinds of situations that these kids, man, I'm afraid. And I have to fake it for them. I have to fake bravery sometimes for these kids over these years. And so bravery matters. Sometimes you fake it till you make it or become it. And God will be there with you. That's why this is called Fostering Faithfully.
Yeah.
Because it takes a lot of faith.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. Well, yeah, thanks so much for coming on and sharing with us your stories and your passion and your excitement for foster parents and for the kids. And I think, I'm really excited for people to hear this and like for us to put it out. I'm going to share it with every single one of my friends and family and all that. Because
I'm looking for young couples who do not have 4 and 6 kids.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to share this with everyone I can. And I'm excited to because I think when you guys share, it's so obvious that you guys are sharing because out of love for the kids and also out of excitement for what people can do to help. And I think it's very obvious, and that I'm excited for people to hear it. So thank you guys so much for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
And for all you're doing in the world, in our community. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's a wrap. So, Alex, wrap it up.
Like and subscribe.